So we're gonna go ahead and pretend like I haven't disappeared for the last 5 months and just continue on life as normal. This is actually probably the third or fourth video that I've recorded, but the last three just never got uploaded or edited. So if you're seeing this, then that's a good sign. What are we gonna talk about today? I'm gonna tell you guys a little story. Recently, I've been listening to music a lot more than I normally do, especially in the car, which isn't normal for me. Typically, if I'm in the car, I'll be listening to a YouTube video or a podcast or nasheed or whatever it might be, but I typically don't listen to music while I'm driving. Recently, though, I've noticed myself listening to it a lot more. At the same time, I've noticed that I've just felt a lot more anxious and restless. It's hard to describe, but it's just this internal feeling of kind of just anxiety. I think it'd be the best way to describe it. I don't feel relaxed, calm. I think music plays a big role in that. I definitely don't think it helps. I think when I'm in the car and I'm listening to music, it aggravates that for sure. And it makes me feel more anxious and more kind of on edge. And it just got to a point where I'm like, I don't want to feel this way. You know, it kind of just became the norm. And I'm already a very type A personality. I'm someone who always likes to stay busy. I have a million things on my to-do list. If I'm not doing something, I just feel like I'm wasting my life. If I'm not working on something, if I'm not being productive, I just feel like there's like, what am I doing with my life? Maybe that's the first generation immigrant being, beaten into me, that kind of mindset. But, we keep rolling. The point is I'm a very naturally kind of jittery person as it is. And the music definitely wasn't helping. And so I remember, the other day I got into the car and I'm like, you know what? I haven't sat in the car or drove in the car and just played some Quran and just listened to that. I haven't done that in a while. And so I turned on recitation that I really like. And I just had that playing and I drove and looked at the view and listened to the Quran and the ayahs and reflected on the meaning of them. And wallahi, guys, wallahi, the difference isn't even comparable. Like, I can't explain to you guys just the relief that I felt. It was almost like a burden, a weight lifted off my shoulders. And I just felt a lot lighter and calmer. And it was really eye-opening. It made me realize that the things that we consume have more of an impact on our lives than we might think. A lot of us are like, it's just a song, it's just whatever, it's not a big deal. In that car ride, I realized, wow, like my soul needed this. My soul needed those 15 minutes of just listening to Quran. It was almost like I was feeding it the right nutrients now. I was feeding it what it was meant to be fed. And it's ironic because it's not like this is a surprise to any of us. Like, we know internally that music is probably not good for you and Quran is definitely good for you, and we should probably listen to less music and, probably listen to more Quran. And this isn't even a matter of halal and haram. I hate how our community automatically, we have to turn this into like, oh, are you saying that music is halal or haram? Like, no, that's not the point of the video. It's, if you had to pick one to be the last thing you listened to before you died, every single one of us would pick Quran. Not a single one of us would want, Lil Uzi to be the last thing that we listen to before we die. I don't know why I said that like such a boomer. Lil Uzi. Point being, every single one of us would choose to die on Quran because internally we know that Quran is good for us, right? And music is bad for us. Whether it's just because of weakness or because we try to make excuses, we still tend to fall into the haram or again, I'm not trying to say that music's haram. I don't know. But we fall into the things that aren't good for us because of the temptation. Because at the end of the day, music is enjoyable to listen to. It does something to you internally, It elevates the emotions that you want to feel. If you feel sad, you put on a sad song, it makes you go from being sad to being depressed. And it's this almost kind of weird, cruel, like, pleasure that you get out of that. Or if you're excited, right, and you turn on some hype music, like, it gets you even more excited and it ramps you up. But do you actually want that? Like, you have to ask yourself, like, do you actually want to have your emotions heightened and amplified? Or would you rather have this more steady baseline, have this sense of sort of calmness and silence. That's the one thing that I noticed. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are the same way, where my brain, it almost feels like it's just working 24/7. There's always a million thoughts going on in my head. And there are very, very few moments in my life where it just felt empty. I wasn't thinking about anything. It was just silent. It was silent inside. And it was amazing. It was amazing. Wouldn't you want more of those moments? And I really want to emphasize and drive home the point that we know what's good and bad for us. I don't need to tell you that. A sheikh doesn't need to tell you that. You already internally know. It's just a matter of fighting that battle, fighting your nafs, and choosing the thing that is good for you more often than you choose the thing that's bad. And it's something that I'm not even going to pretend for a second that I've mastered in any way or that I'm even partly good at. And me and my nafs are just, it's just a battle every single day from the second I wake up. From the second that alarm clock goes off for Fajr, am I going to get up and pray, or am I going to stay in my bed that's really comfy right now? It's something that's definitely difficult. But at the end of the day, why are we doing it? At the end of the day, we're doing it for Jannah, right? We're doing it so we live that eternity in bliss. But Jannah isn't cheap. Jannah isn't free. ألا إن سلعة الله غالية. ألا إن سلعة الله هي الجنة. The reward or the jewelry that Allah has to offer is Jannah, but it's expensive. You know, people before us have given up their entire wealth, their entire lives, all their money. They lived their lives for Allah, and so they can seek out His pleasure. But then we don't want to give up even like the smallest things. And it's funny because society has all these concepts of ways to achieve inner peace, whether it's meditating, deep breathing, reading a book. All of that is just because they don't have the concept of God. Like, that's it. They try to find some other kind of excuse or way to find that inner peace. But our hearts are made to only find that peace through Allah. أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. It is only in the remembrance of Allah that hearts find peace. That's it. Anyways, I don't want this to become like a lecture, a halaqah. The point is just I've realized in my own life that my quality of life, especially my mental health, always gets better the closer I am to my deen and the more diligent I am with making the right decisions for myself. It's not just music. I mean, music is one of many, many factors. It's what you look at a day-to-day basis. Are you lowering your gaze? The people that you hang around. Wallahi, that's a huge one. And you might think that, no, I'm independent and no one can influence me, but you just be a fool. You just be in denial at that point. Because even if you have a strong personality, the people around you are definitely going to influence you. Show me your 5 closest friends and I'll show you your future. And even the Rasul ﷺ said that as-sahibu sahib imma ila al-jannah wa imma ila an-nar. Your friend, your close friend will drag you either to hell or to hellfire. And you have to like analyze your friend group. And it sounds sounds judgmental, but at the end of the day, like, this is your eternity that we're talking about here. That's what is at risk. You have to ask yourself, is this person dragging me closer to hell or closer to heaven? You know, because they are dragging you in one direction. Your friends, the things you listen to, the things you look at, the decisions you make on a day-to-day basis, all of these things are either making you a better Muslim or a worse one. And it's something that you don't get away with it. You know, when you commit something haram, maybe nobody knows, right? Maybe Allah's kept your sin private, but you know, right? You know. And it creates this smudge on your heart and this smudge in your consciousness, right? Like, you know what you did, and you're going to have to kind of live with that, right? That's there in the back of your head. It doesn't just go away. And in fact, the people that almost are hopeless are those that commit sins and then don't feel any guilt afterwards. They don't feel guilty at all. It's just become a part of who they are. And may Allah protect us from getting to that point. It's good that we're able to sort of reflect on these things and reflect on our actions and still be able to catch ourselves and want to improve and become better Muslims. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters in this life. That really is all that matters. And I don't want this to sound so preachy, because that's not the purpose of this video. And I know this is so cliche because everyone says it, but I'm not a sheikh. I'm not a sheikh. And I'm literally just sharing my experience with you guys. The last thing I'll mention is that when I used to live in Dallas, I lived in Dallas for a year and studied at Qalam, which is one of the bigger Islamic institutes in America. And so every single day, you are sitting with shuyukh, you're sitting with students of knowledge, you're going over hadith, you're going over seerah, you're going over Quran. Your entire day is structured around the deen. We'd go home after class and then we would go to halaqas, where it's even more knowledge being spread. It's more like your entire life literally was surrounded by just faith. And in that year, I did my first Umrah. I did my second Umrah. I met brothers who were amazing individuals, genuinely, not just as Muslims, but as entrepreneurs, as fathers, as role models. I just feel like the quality of Muslims there was really admirable. And I remember the version of Mu'adh that was over there. And I remember the deen really being a priority. Because it was, you couldn't escape it. It was 24/7. You were surrounded by students of knowledge. You were surrounded by shuyukh. It was right there in front of you. And so I just remember my heart was a lot softer. I would cry a lot more in salah. I'd have more khushu'. Again, my first Umrah was an incredible, amazing experience. That's all to say that when I moved out of Dallas and I moved back to start dental school, which was almost 3 years ago now, that level of emphasis on deen, it wasn't around me anymore. There were no halaqas to go to. Instead of studying hadith and Imam Shafi'i and all these people, I was studying biochemistry and the Krebs cycle and gingivitis. There was a really abrupt difference, and it had an impact on my faith for sure. It was almost like a culture shock. I noticed it at the time. I remember I noticed it at the time, and it was really depressing. But I just got used to it. I got used to life just like it was before I went to Dallas and before I started studying deen. And recently, subhanAllah, just the way I started this video, almost my whole day and my mind is always preoccupied with school, with studies, with life, with family. I never really took the time and the effort to include Allah in that equation, to include that concentration in salah. I can't remember the last time I've cried in sujood. Just that emphasis on deen wasn't there anymore. And, alhamdulillah, may Allah keep us steadfast. Some of the guys in our community, we've tried to start this kind of weekly halaqah that we do, where we just prepare some pages of Quran or a hadith or a story about a sahaba from the seerah, and we just talk about it and we reflect, and it's really this time to better ourselves as Muslims. And subhanallah, the hadith that was mentioned was that whoever's main priority is akhirah, whoever wakes up and his first thought is his akhirah, his faith, Allah takes his affairs and gathers it for him in front of him. Takes it from here, gathers it in front of him, and gives him dunya, even though he doesn't even want it. He doesn't want dunya. He doesn't want the money. He doesn't want all this stuff, but Allah just gives it to him in front of him. Okay? And the other part of the hadith is that whoever's main focus and main priority is dunya, Allah takes his affairs, scatters them everywhere, and puts poverty right in front of his eyes. Meaning, no matter where he looks, all he sees is poverty, poverty, poverty. I need to do this. I need to get this. I'm deficient in this. And subhanallah, even though I know that hadith and I've heard it before, in that halaqah, this was 2 days ago, it hit me like a brick. It like I had to do one of these. Oh my God. Like that's me. Like that hadith is talking about me. Because my focus for the last how many months has just been dunya. It's just been, I need to finish these exams. I need a way to make money. I'm about to get married. I need to plan all these wedding things, all this stuff. And that whole time, I never once thought about, how's my salah? How is my hifz? And subhanAllah, it's funny because like several times I've had that realization where like, even that intention of like, I need to get back on my hifz. I need to start memorizing Quran again. But then never actually acted on it. And the effects of that was that hadith. The effects of that is my affairs, the things I need to do, and it just feels scattered. And every day I wake up and I'm anxious and I'm irritated and I'm tired physically, mentally, because my only focus has been on dunya. My only focus has been on dunya. When I go to pray my 5 salahs, it just feels rushed. And I'm experiencing the direct consequences of that are mentioned in the hadith. My action of prioritizing dunya leads to the consequence of me feeling anxious and irritated and tired and sometimes even depressed. That's just a reality. And that's something, again, it's like we almost know it internally, but we don't want to admit it to ourselves. And I think actually there's more lessons to be learned from the honesty of saying, I've been struggling a lot with this, and these are the consequences of it, so that you guys don't do the same thing. So, we can all kind of realize that the things that Allah tells us and the promises that He tells us are true, which again, sounds dumb saying it out loud, like duh. But then you read a hadith like that, and then you still kind of prioritize your dunya. So it's just interesting. It's something to think about. I low-key killed that last part, so we're going to end it on that. We're going to end it on a good note. I felt good. Yo, we might finally post a video, bro. It's been like 5 months. It's actually been like 5 months. I'm gonna calm down. Let me know if you guys like these sort of longer videos. I really want to start doing more of these where I just sit down in front of the camera and just yap about certain things. I have a lot on my mind that I want to talk about. So if you like these videos, let me know. And I would love to make more of them as well. Barakallahu feekum. I will catch you guys in the next one. Wassalamu alaikum.